Today's podcast guest is the amazing Shannon Schofield from Girl Guides Rockhampton. I am super excited to have Shannon on the podcast today to talk all things Girl Guides and community service and youth development, and of course, a little bit of games. As we can see from Shannon's background, she's absolutely into games and figurines, and what better place for Shannon to work than at Millennium Comics? So this is going to be a super fun podcast, in my opinion. And of course, we're going to talk all things Girl Guides, but we're going to talk all things life too. So thank you so much for joining me, Shannon.
Thank you, Nari. Thank you for having me on. I'm very, very excited.
I'm very excited to have you. I've only had one Scout so far, and as we both know, Scouts and Girl Guides walk together. We're on a
Absolutely,
similar
yes.
journey. We've got similar
Absolutely.
goals.
Yes.
And we do like to work together in the Rocky region and the Rocky district. So before we really get stuck into it though, can I ask if you could be an expert in anything at all in the world, whether it be oddball or completely run of the mill, what would it be and why?
Honestly, I think it would have to be being skilled in all the things that I want to teach my girl guides, like knots and orienteering. That I am terrible at that stuff. My mantra in life is fake it till you make it. And I've actually adopted that as my guide district motto. So all my leaders have all taken that on. So half the time I don't know what I'm about to teach these kids. So I just go, yeah, we're going to fake it. We're going to look up the YouTube videos and Google it 5 minutes before we start and just get in there. But it would be awesome if I could just have these skills and go, oh yeah, I can teach you knots, no problem. I'm not like pretending I know what I'm doing with a smile on my face. So yeah, I would love to just have all those skills in my brain, being able to go, yeah, I can teach you knots and orienteering and pioneering skills. It would be wonderful to be able to do that. But alas, it's Google and YouTube to the rescue.
Well, there's nothing wrong with Google and YouTube coming to the rescue and it also shows the girls as well that you don't know everything,
No, that's exactly
and
right.
we are all on a learning journey in life, and you just need to learn as it's needed. And I think that's a really good skill that you share with the girls, but also with the audience, because a lot of people, you would have this same challenge in Girl Guides as what I have in Scouts, is they think they need experience. People are, they're looking at what we're doing, they're looking in and saying, oh my goodness, they're having so much fun. They're doing all these epic things and they're contributing to their community. I wish I could do that. That's what I think people think.
Yeah.
But then they've got that hesitation because they might think to themselves, oh, I don't know how to do knots, or I don't know how to do pioneering or maps or
Yeah.
GPS or use a compass or, build stuff. But
Yeah.
you know what? You don't need to,
No,
because there's so much more to Girl Guides than that stuff.
absolutely.
That's a great thing to start us, I guess, because I'm just going to do a bit of a plug and say if anybody's interested in being a Girl Guide leader, no skills
Absolutely.
required. You will be
No, that's
taught
right.
everything that you need.
I just use our mantra, fake it till you make it. You would be right with us.
Yeah, sounds like a good crew to get in with. So tell me a little bit about, your upbringing and what's kind of led you on this path of Girl Guide leadership. So you are the assistant district manager for Girl Guides in Rockhampton, and you're also a unit leader for
Yep.
2 units. So you've got your Ranger Guides and you've got your Adventurer Guides, so two
Yep.
different age groups.
Mhm.
What sort of led you on that path, or like influenced the way that you grew up and were exposed to different things to decide, you know what, that's what I'm going to be doing?
Yeah. So I was a girl guide when I was younger. So I did it for a couple of years back in the 90s, back in the day. I did it for a couple of years, but, I left in that sort of age where we tend to lose a lot of girls, that, tween teen age, where, you're heading off to high school, trying to find yourself and all that kind of thing. You don't know if it's cool to be a girl guide or that sort of thing. So, yeah, I did girl guiding for a couple of years, but then I, obviously left and then, went on to become an adult and everything. But in terms of, so obviously became a volunteer as an adult, but in terms of why I got into that, like my parents have always been like taught us like volunteering is important and stuff. So always like brought us up in, she was always volunteering for school things and that when she could, and different organizations and church fates and all that sort of stuff. So I think it was always inbuilt in me that, you should give back to your community wherever you can. And so I volunteered in different things. I've listed my kids when they were little and stuff, but then, yeah, eventually my journey has led me to guiding. But one of the actually the funny reasons why I got into guiding is, it's not really funny, but so my daughter, I had a daughter of my own, obviously we became an adult, and she got to that age, 5, 6, we're like, I want you to do Girl Guides too, even though I didn't do it for a long time. I'm like, oh, it'd be good for you. So, I put her into guiding, and I remember the first night, watching what they were doing, and I could hear them singing laps and doing horseshoe and that, and it just brought back all these memories. And I'm like, I remember this. This was a lot of fun. And so she was actually in it for a few years. And then, so she was in North Rocky Girl Guides at the time. And during that, I think it was 2017, they decided that they wanted to reopen the South Rocky Guides. It had been shut for a while. They decided that they wanted to reopen it. And so they wanted some of the North Rocky guys to cover for this open day. And was like, can I go, Mum? And I'm like, of course, we'll go. And you can show all the new girls what guiding's all about. And of course, people there from Guides Queensland, and on that day they were like, would you be interested in volunteering? They asked that question. It was a no for me. No, thank you. I'm quite fine, But there was a friend of mine there at the time who was interested in getting her girls into guiding. Come on, we'll do it together, Shannon. And I'm like, but I said, oh, maybe, and then it's okay, maybe I'll come as a parent helper. I will come each week. I'll be a parent helper, but I don't want to do paperwork. I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to do any of that stuff. And then, of course, that's how it all starts. And then I found myself being a leader. They're like, come on, sign up. So I ended up being a leader. But who I was there is actually different to who I am now. So when I joined up as a leader in 2017, I was actually classed as morbidly obese, so very unfit, very unhealthy. I was definitely not an outdoorsy person, so the thought of camping and stuff just was not my thing. And the thought of leading Girl Guides, and then I have an anxiety disorder and that too. And I'm like, I don't want to be talking to people and running all these activities and that sort of thing. Actually, the person who got me to go out of my comfort zone and be a guide leader and sign up for this thing was actually a friend of mine who some people will know, Raylene Ensby. So she actually used to run the Umbrella Network in Rockhampton. And I had started working for her in 2015 because I was studying community service. And so the Umbrella Network worked with families with children with special needs, and she was an advocate for disability services and stuff. But for those who might know of Raylene, she absolutely loves to throw people in the deep end and absolutely loves to see people reach their potential. So she was the person who has actually inspired me to get into guiding, even though she has nothing to do with the guiding. The reason she inspired me is because she would say to me, you can do this, you can do whatever you want, and I'm going to make you do this, even if you're kicking and screaming. So, she had me doing things at my job where it was like talking in front of high school students not long after I started and all these things. And I thought, for somebody with anxiety and stuff, I'm like, well, if I can do this, I can become a Girl Guide leader. And so I'm like, you know what? I think I probably can do this. I will, if I've challenged myself in so many ways. She's showing me that I can, do other things and look outside the square. So I'm like, okay, I'll do the Girl Guide thing. I'll sign up. I will become a leader, but that's all I'm going to do. And then, fast forward 8 years and I've been a district manager and I've been contingent leaders for jamborees and run units and all of these things. And you're like, yeah, so much for I'm never going to do paperwork and never going to do all of that. That's how it all begins. But I have to admit, that's how I sucked my parents into. And I'm like, just come along. You can do it.
I love it. And, it's just about getting over that initial hurdle. Hey, like everyone has those hesitations. They may struggle with anxiety, or they may think that they're not good enough to be a leader. Really,
Yeah.
we're just looking for volunteers, or sorry, Girl Guides is looking for volunteers. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
and you've got all of these internal barriers, and then you've got people like Raylene who are out there cheering for you, and many other people. I can imagine she's impacted as well. And, just someone to just push you that little bit outside of your comfort zones. And then, as we can see from yourself, you have grown and evolved, and the experience that you get in Girl Guides is phenomenal,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
it would be translating through to your work, through to the way you parent, through to the way you show up in the community. It's just such a special movement. And yeah, I did know you all those years ago, of course,
Yes.
I think I've been involved in Scouts and Girl Guides since
Yeah.
about 2016.
Yeah.
It's been a bit of a journey, and I would never have known that about you, that you struggled with, weight challenges and
Yeah.
what comes with that. And then, of course, anxiety on top of that. But
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal. I'm super stoked that you agreed to be on this podcast
Oh,
because
thank you.
your
I'm glad
your
you asked me. I was
yeah,
excited.
yeah, your story is definitely one we need to share. But just tell me a little bit about, was there any real turning point, like aside from the bit of a push from Raylene or just in general with your life and where you've gone, was there anything pivotal that kind of happened and went, okay, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing and why I'm going to be doing it?
In terms of guiding or
Anything in your life. When you think about you've had such significant influence from community service and volunteering work your whole life,
yeah.
and you did it with your children when they were younger, and then that little bit of hesitation with guides. But was there anything apart from Raylene? That's a massive moment. Was
Yeah.
there anything where you kind of like was a big bang moment for your life where you changed directional path?
Yeah, definitely a couple of times. So yeah, I've found in the last couple of years has been like a change in my life. So I'm in my 40s now, and I think I've reached a point where I've discovered who I find like I'm who I am. You know, obviously been a guide since 2017, but I've always been working since like my working career sort of began. I started studying hospitality and then ended up needing a job. So I ended up working for a law firm for 5 years and then took time off, had kids, but then I've been working in community service organizations. I was working for Umbrella, I did some disability support work, and then I was working for Meals on Wheels for 5 years. And then years ago, I started going to Millennium Comics because my family are huge pop culture nerds. And, you know, it ended up, I got started working in their cafe as a second job. And then eventually they offered me a full-time job. And I just like, I have to do this. Like some people are like, you're leaving like your adult real job as in aged care to go and sell comic books and some people are like sure that's what you want to do and I'm like it is. I really feel like I want to do what makes me happy and I wanted to started living my life. So also in 2023 I had gastric sleeve surgery to get my life back on track. I had a lot of health problems and I didn't feel like who I wanted to be inside. So, it certainly wasn't living my best life, wasn't being a good example to my kids. It wasn't like in terms of guiding, I wasn't able to give 100%, all those sort of things. So, I had surgery, lost a lot of weight, and then I started to feel like this is who I really am. Like I've started feeling myself. And then the opportunity came to work at Millennium and I absolutely love it. Like every day is a different day. I hear myself saying things about like Pokemon cards and then I'm going, I think I'm saying this. Like, like it's it's definitely different from how I expected my life to turn out. I've done lots of different things, but I'm like, no, I finally feel like being in my 40s, I'm living my best life and doing all the things that I love. And doing that nerd thing is making me really happy. That and guiding.
Just fully embracing who you are, owning that, loving
Absolutely.
life, doing what
Yeah,
makes you happy. That in itself,
absolutely.
standalone from guiding is quite inspirational because it's very brave to make that call to say, you know what, this career is not serving me anymore. I'm going to pivot over here and do something different. And I can imagine you get up every day and go to work at Millennium because it's a super fun place.
Very fun.
And as I shared, like it's not a place I frequent often because I'm not a pop culture nerd, but I have an appreciation for it.
Yeah,
And of course, my kids do love it. So I've been in there a couple of times, but it's such a great space that they've made there. That from that
absolutely.
transition on High Street into that epic center
Yeah,
on East
absolutely.
with the board games and the cafe and the exclusive products that I can't figure out where to buy from anywhere else, like the Labubu things. And I don't even
Booze,
know if
yeah.
that's the right thing 'cause I know there's some knockoffs out there.
No, as are definitely real.
Yes, I double checked that when I went and
Yeah,
bought
yeah.
one. I hope my daughter doesn't listen to this before Christmas. Uh, but yeah, no, that's thank you so much for sharing that part of your journey because it's very brave and you probably realize this, you may not, but I think it's worth recognizing. So tell me a little bit about Rocky specifically and how it shaped your journey. So, did you grow up in Rocky your whole life and or on the Capricorn coast?
I'm actually from Mareeba up in North Queensland, so it's about an hour's drive from Cairns. So I grew up there, originally from Atherton, which is also North Queensland. I spent a year of my life in England as a kid because my family is Scottish. So we moved over to England for a year to be with all the rallies. And then when I came back, we lived in Mareeba. And that's where I did guiding as a youth member. And then when I was 17, I finished high school and mum and dad were encouraging me to, go spread your wings, do things. And I had got into a joint diploma of hospitality management and a bachelor of tourism here in Rocky. So I moved down here by myself. I lived at the old CWA hostel on Archer Street, which has been knocked down as now the Loft Apartments, if anybody remembers that. I lived for a year of my life, and then eventually mum and dad moved my brother down here. And then eventually mum and dad moved down here as well. So we all ended up down here. So I've been here ever since. This is Rocky's where I've been the longest in life, and I consider it home. And I love Rockhampton. A lot of people bag it at times, but I think it's a great place. We have so much. When you think about what Rocky and the central Queensland has, we actually have a lot. It's great. Literally recently, some of our leader friends were discussing we could do a jamboree here in central Queensland, and someone made a joke going, "There's nothing to do." But when you actually start talking about all the things there is in the area, it's like, man, there's heaps to do here. You really could do one.
So much to do. There
Yeah.
is so much to do here. I know I wasn't around at the time, but Scouts Queensland did have a cabaret here at Sione Park. I
Yep.
believe it was quite wet though, and it wasn't. It was way before my time, but you know, we have land, we have activities, we have
Absolutely.
the 20, 30 minutes to the beach. We've got the caves.
That's right.
We've got bushwalks and hikes.
Everything. It's just there's so much.
Yeah. And one of the random things that I think is pretty cool about our town, I'm just going to plug it on your on your
Yeah, yeah.
podcast. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's like self-guided tours that you can do using explorerockhampton.com.au. You could do it with your guides. So heads up.
Yeah.
So go
Oh,
to
cool.
explorerockhampton.com.au.
Yeah.
It's a website run by the council, and you can pretty much create an itinerary to explore your own town.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you can get an app and you can walk along Key Street. So there's lots of different things you can do. You can do things at the Botanic Gardens, but you can walk along Key Street, and you've got this app and it knows where you are and it tells you about the building you're standing in front of.
Hey, that's really
It
cool.
is super cool and it's free. Like, these are all of the things that our young people can get to explore, and it's already been created for us.
Awesome. I
And
think
at
I'll
the
be
Botanic,
stealing this one.
yeah, definitely go to explorerockhampton.com.au. I love it. And there was one summer there, I think it was 2022, I think. And
Yep.
we had just Christmas at home here in Rocky. And I said to my family, they think I'm pretty lame sometimes. And I said, we're going to be tourists in our own town. So I had like this 5 days planned. And I looked at the Explore Rockhampton website and just planned out. We did the bull tour, we did the art tour, we did the Botanic Gardens, we went to Mount Morgan for the day. Yeah, I just came to Rocky to live here. Just jumped on this app and went, if I was brand new to Rocky, what am I going to do that doesn't cost any money? But it's great for the young people as well to resource
Absolutely.
there. So let me ask you a little bit about your challenges that you've overcome in life. So whether it be guiding or not, I, of course, understand and appreciate the challenges that do come with working with young people,
Yep.
um, volunteer capacity, and
Yep.
navigating, of course, parents and carers and expectations and things
Yep.
like that. But have you had anything in your life that's been a significant challenge that's really shaped your perspective and, put yourself on a different path?
Really, I don't really think so in a general thing, just life's just headed where it is. But I don't think there's been anything particular or nothing my brain's thinking of.
Okay. What about proud moments, like something that's happened where you've gone, wow, that's a big thing. I'm pretty proud of that.
Can I talk about in guides and related
Of
to guides?
course
Yeah,
you can.
absolutely.
We're here for guides.
So, there's actually so many proud moments in guiding, it's sort of hard to pin them all down. But a couple of ones that really stand out to me is we actually had like an emergency situation on a camp a year or so ago, and it was quite traumatic at the time. And I watched my girls, particularly my older guides, I watched them use all the skills that I teach in guiding. Saw them, do first aid. I saw them, send for help. I saw them reassure younger kids. And it made me so proud because I was just like, this is why we do what we do. This was this is why I teach, these skills and give up my time and everything, because these kids are learning something. When you see it in that situation, you think, well, they've really paid attention to what I've said. Because sometimes, like you probably know this as a scout leader, sometimes you think, oh, why am I doing this? You get a bit, tired and exhausted and go, oh, I just, don't know why I do this. But then you see situations and you go, oh my gosh, and that particular situation was also a proud moment for me because my daughter, who is now an adult member of guiding, ended up, her actions that day ended up winning her a bravery medal through Girl Guides. So that was like a huge thing. Like, she did an amazing thing, but also seeing the other girls that I've seen grow up, for seeing them just do all these things that you go, well, yeah, they're learning something and you know exactly what you're doing is important. So that's probably been one of the most recent proud moments for me in guiding. And then another one that we did a few years ago was this is when I was still at South Rocky before we merged with North Rocky to become Rockhampton District. We decided to teach our younger guides, who were like 5 to 9 year olds, how to sew so they could sew bat wraps for like orphan baby bats or flying foxes.
Wow.
So we got them to sew them up. We made, I think, 50 of them, and we donated them to a local flying fox carer. The cool thing about it was the ABC actually came and did a news or a story about it, that about all the girls doing it and that sort of thing. So the story actually ended up viral worldwide because it was end of 2019, so early 2020, before the big fires hit in Australia, where all of Australia was burning. So the fact that we had kind of got in that bit early and start making the wrap, so it ended up becoming viral. I think it ended up being shared probably 300,000 times worldwide. And then beyond then, people were like sharing and stuff. And even my proud moment was Play School shared it. And I'm like, the fact that Play School sharing our story about what we were doing. And we actually got hate mail over it as well, which is really sad. But we had I actually had a gentleman who emailed me direct and said, it's a terrible thing that you're teaching your girl guides. And that was obviously his point of view. He called us hippie greenies. And I'm like, oh, well, like, that's fine if you want to have a go at 5-year-olds who are doing something positive for the environment, whatever. But that was a proud moment because the fact that it just went huge worldwide, all these people were sharing and go, oh, look at, the baby bats, because the video featured all the baby bats. It's still online. It's a very cool little video. And actually one of the girls who's in the video, we rewatched it recently because she was like 5 at the time and she's now 13 and still in guide. So we're like, so that was another proud moment. And just to have that impact, just that little bit of impact, just something, a simple little thing like just teaching girls to sew, it just had a big impact around the world, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. What an amazing thing they did. And I bet they would have felt so proud for making a difference too and helping out their environment.
They did. That's the thing. They were really, really proud, and they learned about what the flying foxes were and about the actual importance they had to the environment and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
'cause people do perceive them as pests, but as we learned with the girls, are actually a keystone species, and they're so vulnerable for pollination and stuff. So to have that moment to teach the girls that, as well as obviously do something to help them, was really good. And I know that video inspired a lot of people because the video was shared, and people, because of the fires and stuff, people were sharing and go, hey, we need to do this for bats in our area and all the other wildlife that was affected by the bushfires and everything at that particular time.
Yeah, wow. Have the girls at Girl Guides ever done the Bat Cleft tour with the national?
No, we haven't done that one yet. It is one of the things I do plan to do. Like, we've done the caving and stuff, but we haven't done that one.
Yeah.
So that would
It's
be pretty
amazing.
cool.
It is absolutely amazing, and I've done it a couple of times,
Oh,
with scouts and then just with my family. It was actually formed part of my "Let's have a holiday at home" because I believe it's on the Explore Rockhampton website as a
oh,
suggestion because it's quite inexpensive to do it.
yeah,
Like,
I'll
you
have
just
to look into that one. Yeah.
yeah, you just pay the, national parks and wildlife fee for their rangers support, but
Oh,
yeah,
that's
one for
cool.
the memory bank. But I have I'm wondering what keeps you showing up at guides in particular? Like what keeps you moving forward, turning up, volunteering, doing the paperwork after all of these years? What is that thing that's driving you?
It's knowing you're making a difference. Yeah, you definitely as a volunteer, you definitely do have times where you get burnt out and you just go, why am I doing this? Because I love working with the youth, but I'll be the first to admit I hate paperwork. I said that from the start that I never wanted to do paperwork, but I just, yeah, it's just when you're working with, you're making a difference. So my girl guiding name is Acacia. So I always joke that when I'm at Girl Guides, my alter ego is Acacia. So I feel like two different people sometimes. So Most people like know me as Acacia and that it's just, my other personality. But, like when I'm in Acacia mode, it's, you're there for the kids. You're making a difference. And like, I'm getting as much out of it all as the girls are because I'm doing things that I can never imagine, and like on my weekends, I'm going off and going on big camps and I'll be abseiling or doing whatever. And I'm like, this is cool. Like a lot of people like, my age and that aren't getting to do this, but I'm doing this really cool stuff and I'm teaching those skills to girls, which obviously, as I said before, I know those skills are going to get used. And, sometimes I just sit back sometimes at guys and I'll watch the girls, they'll be doing whatever their activity is. And I'll just be watching them. And my cup gets so just watching them giggle and laugh and, talk to each other. And I just think this is why you do it. This is why you give up your time, why you give up your weekends, why your holidays from work are like to go on jamborees or camps or whatever. And you just know then that you're making a difference. And, some girls may only be in guides for like a few months to a year, and then other ones have been in it for, the entire length of their youth membership. And then they've gone on to be members. And then you go, well, this I'm doing doing something right, like obviously the skills we're teaching, guides, your guiding journey might be a short one or it might be a really long one, but I feel like no matter how long their journey is with us, we're making some sort of difference and they'll have some sort of memory, no matter what that is, to remember. So like I know girl guiding members who we have a lady in Rockhampton who's been a girl guiding member for 75 years or
Mhm.
thereabouts, Margaret Hale. And, like I know women who are obviously much older now and they'll be like, oh, she was my leader and stuff. And I remember doing X, Y, Z with her. And I think one day I would love to have that moment where they'd be like, Acacia was my leader. I remember doing this, even if it was the shortest time that they were with us in guides. I have run into a couple of guides from quite a few years ago and they'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember you and we did this or whatever. And you're like, oh, well, that's nice to be remembered or nice that, it's often the mums that remember me rather than the kids. But you just think, oh, well, you've made some sort of difference and that's nice to know. So, and that's what you've got to keep remembering when you have the times where you're burnt out with the paperwork or you just don't have enough time when you're trying to program and do work and life in general. It's just sitting back and watching those moments and go, yeah, I'm doing something great here.
Yeah, I could not agree more because sometimes the paperwork, and I don't mean to put a negative spin
Oh,
on at all because there's certain roles that do a little bit
yeah,
extra paperwork than most
absolutely.
volunteers,
It's all
and you
part
are
of it.
absolutely in one of those roles. So,
Yeah.
coming along as a parent helper or a brand new leader, if anyone's listening and they're interested, please don't stress about the paperwork.
No, please come, please come.
Shannon will absolutely help you.
Yes.
Yeah, I find that as well, it gets a little bit much sometimes and you just want to go and sit and just be with the kids. And it,
Yeah.
it is so rewarding. I can absolutely relate. And they do incredible stuff and they push themselves and you get to see a side of them that sometimes their own friends and their own family doesn't get to see until it all, it's the big reveal because they band together because something might happen like the traumatic event that you had, which is not great
Yeah.
circumstances, but that's where everything shines and onlookers, family, friends sit back and go, "Wow, they've got some skills, they've got some values, and they're a good kid."
Yeah. Yeah. Parents will often say, oh, I couldn't imagine that they would do that or I didn't think they would do that. And I'm like, that's right. You're giving them a chance to like, try something different and, expand their world. And Girl Guides or as Scouts as well is all about building resilience, which is my huge thing for why I do what I do. I think resilience in kids is so, so important. And I love that that's what we're doing with these kids. You're teaching them stuff. And even like a lot of kids, we have a lot of kids come to us and be like, their parents are like, oh, they just spend all day on their devices and they don't have a lot of friends at school and we're trying to get them outside their comfort zone. And I'm like, well, that's what they're all about. We want that. And they'll come to us and, it takes a little while, but you get them outside that comfort zone. They're building that resilience and they're doing things the parents like, wow, they've surprised me. And I'm like, that's right. You're giving them that opportunity.
Yep, absolutely. I have one more question for you before I
Yeah.
let you go. So, what piece of advice would you give to the next generation coming along after us? So, whether it be potential new guide leaders that are younger than us,
Yeah.
both in our 40s,
Yeah.
but what piece of advice would you give, whether it be for guiding or life, to help people navigate the world?
Fake it till you make it. I mean, that is
I
definitely
kind of
my
knew you
motto.
were going to say that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that absolutely. I like. It's just funny how that's become our district motto. But anyway, it's probably a lot of people say you should say face it till you make it, not fake it, but no, I'm the other way. I'll actually say a quote from Robert Baden-Powell, who's obviously founder of Scouting and Guiding. So try and leave this world a little better than you found it. So obviously that quote is a little bit longer than that, but that is the main gist of it. And I love that. I'm just like, just do whatever you can for, your little bit of good, no matter what that is. Like, it doesn't have to be huge, but try and do something positive for the world, basically, is all. Yeah, try and do good stuff because there's so much bad stuff going on in the world. So just try and do what you can to make some sort of little difference because, yeah, you might feel sometimes like you're doing nothing, but you'll be surprised how you can leave an influence on somebody's life. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. And that is one of my favorite quotes as well. So
yeah,
yeah,
mine too.
nailed
Yeah.
it. I would like to say a very big thank you for jumping on this podcast with me. It's been so great having you, and I'm really keen to share a little bit of insight about Girl Guides in the Rocky District with the audience. And I really hope that anyone who's out there that may be thinking about something that they might like to get involved with, they might like to make a difference in the world or have a small contribution some way, shape or form, to please reach out to Girl Guides Rocky or get in touch with Shannon. And I'm sure you would be more than happy to have people come along and have a conversation and find out what it's all about, even if they're youth members as well, like to get involved.
Absolutely. Like I'm so passionate about guiding. So I definitely want, new people to come out and, new youth members and stuff. So yeah, get in touch with us, Rockhampton Girl Guides on the Facebook and, we'd love to have you come along. We'll show you what for your kids what guiding's all about because I think there is a little bit of stigma about guiding being a little bit old fashioned, but we do lots of cool stuff. So
Mm.
come check us out.
And you've got a really cool leadership team, to be fair. Like, with yourself at in the assistant district manager role, you're an awesome person. So you
Thank
surround
you.
yourself with awesome people, and
Yeah.
you get a great movement and organisation locally
Yeah.
here in Rocky, which is super.
Yeah, I will say a quick shout out, to my district team. My leaders are absolute wonder I work with. Like they deal with my craziness and they'll just like go, okay, yeah, we're doing that. But yeah, they're great to work with, and I think that makes why our district works so well because everybody gets on so well. We're all friends outside of guiding, and everybody has skill shares to share and has their strengths and supports each other, raises each other up. And I think it makes a big difference. And the girls see that, and the parents see that, and go, yeah, I want my kids to be in guiding because these people make it fun. So it's great to have that support in my leadership team.
Yeah, that is fantastic. And it can be quite tricky as well in volunteer organizations in particular where you may have, clashes or different opinions, but if you've got an open mind and you're ready and willing to learn, to listen, to explore, to try things
Yeah,
differently, because that's what life's about, then you're guaranteed to have fun.
that's right. That's right. We all have a part to play and we all have different gifts to share. So yeah, it's a lot to give.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again so much. It has been an absolute pleasure.
So thank you very much for inviting me to be on the show.
You are very welcome.